All alone in an empty room, nothing left but the memories of when I had my best friend, and I don't know how we...
Welcome everyone to Dead Air. Let me just say I am so freaking excited about today's episode. I hope you guys are excited as well. Today we are talking about 2009's Jennifer's Body. I'm so excited. If you're new here, my name is Siena Anzaldua. I am your host of all things scary, spooky, and horrific. So thank you so much for joining me tonight, and I hope you are as excited as I am. And this is a continuation of our Women's History Month theme. And so I'm so excited. So as per usual, we are going to start with our horror movie summary. I hope y'all are excited because I am excited. Anita Needy Lesnicki, once an insecure and studious teenager living in the small town of Devil's Kettle, Minnesota, is now a violent asylum inmate who narrates the story as a flashback while in solitary confinement.
But after the killings began, I started to feel, I don't know, loose around the edges or something.
Since childhood, Needy has been best friends with Jennifer Check, a popular and beautiful high school color guard flag spinner. Despite the two having little in common, Jennifer often mistreats and dominates Needy, who is too in awe of her to stand up for herself.
So cross out Needy.
What time is the show? We'll pick you up at 8:30. My mom has a date with that guy who owns the ham store.
Seems nice.
Wear something cute, okay?
Okay.
One night, Jennifer takes Needy to a local dive bar to attend a concert by the indie rock band Low Shoulder. A fire engulfs the bar, killing several people. Jennifer, in shock from the fire, leaves with the band even though Needy tells her not to. Later that evening, she appears in Needy's kitchen covered in blood and attempts to eat a rotisserie chicken. She immediately vomits a trail of black fluid and almost bites Needy's neck, but retreats and leaves. The next morning at school, Jennifer appears fine and dismisses Needy's concerns, appearing apathetic to the fire tragedy. She seduces the school's football captain and lures him into the woods where she disembowels and cannibalizes him, as you do.
Do you miss Craig?
Of course.
Well, you're gonna see your buddy really soon.
What, you mean like in heaven someday?
No.
God.
Meanwhile, Low Shoulder gains popularity due to their falsely rumored heroism during the fire, and offered to make a charity appearance at the school's spring formal. A month later, Jennifer becomes ill and listless. She accepts a date with school alternative/emo, Colin, whom she invites to an abandoned house. Once there, she brutally kills and devours him. While Needy and her boyfriend Chip have sex, Needy senses something dreadful has happened and has a disturbing vision of a demonic Jennifer. She flees back home, but on the way, she is accosted by Jennifer, who is drenched in blood. After making it home unhurt, Needy finds a revitalized and amorous Jennifer in her bed. Jennifer attempts to seduce Needy by kissing her. Needy initially reciprocates, but then comes to her senses and demands an explanation. Jennifer reveals that Low Shoulder had taken her into the woods after the bar fire and offered her as a virgin, ultimate sacrifice, to Satan in exchange for fame and fortune.
Do you know how hard it is to make it as an indie band these days? There's so many of us. We're all so cute, and it's like if you don't get on Letterman or some retarded soundtrack, you're screwed. Okay? Satan is our only hope. We're in league with the beast now, and we have to make a really big impression on him. And to do that, we're going to have to butcher you. And bleach you. And then Dirk here is gonna wear your face. Relax, I'm kidding about the face. The rest is gonna happen though.
Why don't you just get a publicist? We can make t-shirts. I can be a part of your street team, please.
Sorry, no can do. But you know what? Maybe we'll write a song about you. I think as a fan, that'd be pretty cool, right?
Although the sacrifice was a success, Jennifer was not actually a virgin, so she became permanently possessed. She became hungry, and Ahmet, a foreign exchange student who was thought to have died in the fire, was her first victim. She had intended to eat Needy as well, but left because she could not bring herself to hurt her best friend. When she has eaten, she can withstand virtually any injury without pain, healing instantly. Needy goes to the school library's occult section and determines that Jennifer is a succubus who must feed on flesh and can only be killed while she is hungry and weak. Needy tells Chip about Jennifer. He does not believe her, of course, so she breaks up with him in order to protect him. Jennifer intercepts Chip on the way to the school dance and lies to him, saying that Needy had been cheating on him with Colin. She takes him to an abandoned pool and begins feeding on him. Needy arrives and Chip impales Jennifer through the stomach with a pool skimmer. Jennifer, however, having eaten just enough to survive the injury, removes the pool skimmer and escapes while Chip dies. Angry and heartbroken, Needy breaks into Jennifer's bedroom. The two fight and Jennifer bites Needy's shoulder in the struggle. Needy rips Jennifer's best friend's necklace off her neck. Jennifer stops fighting back and Needy stabs her in the heart with a utility knife, killing her and destroying the demon. Jennifer's mother enters the room and finds Needy on top of her dead daughter's body, resulting in Needy's imprisonment. She also manifests some of Jennifer's supernatural powers due to the bite. Needy eventually escapes the mental facility and hitchhikes a ride, telling the driver she is following a band. A home video, surveillance footage, and crime scene videos show that the members of Low Shoulder have been murdered in their hotel by Needy. Siena's thoughts, we've got Siena's thoughts, whether you like them or not. We've got Siena's thoughts. Okay, so let me just freaking say, oh my gosh, so many thoughts on this. Okay, first of all, we all know I am a sucker for freaking one-liners. If this movie has anything, it is the absolute gold of one-liners, okay? All throughout the movie, you're just hit with these wonderful, wonderful, perfect, lovely one-liners. Here are some examples. It literally opens with, "Hell is a teenage girl." Love that, okay? And then when Needy and Jennifer go to the dive bar or whatever, she's talking to Chip and Jennifer goes, "You're lime green Jello and you can even admit it to yourself."
You're totally Jello. You're lime green Jello and you can't even admit it to yourself.
Okay, it's not even just these one-liners, it's that they're so perfectly placed in this movie. I mean, it's so intricate in the way that they're placed. I love it so much. Another one, okay? "I'm not killing people. I'm killing boys."
You're killing people. No, I'm killing boys.
Love it, okay? And then one of my favorites, do you buy all your murder weapons from Home Depot? God, you're butch.
Do you buy all your murder weapons at Home Depot? God, you're butch.
Love this. Okay, so going more into this movie, to me, this movie is so incredibly relatable for not just women, but for young teenage girls, because you're getting so many different themes in here. So first you get the toxic female relationship, okay? The relationship between Needy and Jennifer is not good. Even though Needy believes it is at the time of this happening, it's not a good friendship at all, okay? So it's intense, it's codependent, and it's very competitive in a way. The movie also digs into how teenage friendships can blur the line between love, jealousy, loyalty, and resentment. So Jennifer dominates socially while Needy lives in her shadow, which creates a dynamic that is both affectionate and super duper unhealthy. Super unhealthy. I think everyone has had some sort of relationship that is very similar to this. Another reason why I really chose this movie is because you get the female rage. The feminine rage that we always think about. And this is sort of this movie also shows the reclaiming of power, okay? So after Jennifer is sacrificed by the band, she comes back as a demon who literally feeds on men. Love that. On the surface, it's very horror, but thematically, it's about rage against exploitation and the way women's bodies are treated as disposable, like as we see. So her revenge isn't really framed as heroic, but it really channels that anger at the systems that have hurt and destroyed Jennifer. And I love that. I mean, I feel like that is so incredibly relatable to all women. And another huge theme is the objectification of women in this movie. So the band Low Shoulder sacrifices Jennifer because they assume she's a virgin and is therefore like sort of useful for the ritual. And the irony is hilariously brutal because they objectify her body for fame, and their mistake turns her into a demon, into a monster. And so the film is really a critique of how women are valued mainly for sexuality and purity. And I think Diablo Cody did such a great job in writing this movie because it truly channels that rage, that objectification. You can see that objectification all throughout this movie. It's wonderful. I love it. So then we also, moving on from sort of the feminine rage and such, we get the dark side of high school social hierarchies. This movie really leans hard into the predatory nature of popularity. So Jennifer's power comes from being desired and feared. When she loses control over that image, she begins to spiral. So it's basically saying that high school popularity is its own kind of horror movie, which again, I feel like is very common throughout our society. It's very common for people to hate high school. Then we also get trauma and transformation in this movie. Jennifer's possession works as a metaphor for how trauma changes someone. And she returns physically powerful, but emotionally weak. And this turns her pain outward. So meanwhile, Needy's transformation at the end shows how trauma spreads, reshaping the people around it. And I do think that is such a wonderful aspect of this movie. Love it. I love it. And of course, we also have to talk about the queer subtext and repressed desire in this movie. So the tension between Jennifer and Needy carries clear queer undertones. Their kiss scene is iconic because it sort of blurred the lines between affection, manipulation, and attraction. And many fans read their relationship as exploring repressed desire, identity confusion, and emotional intimacy between girls. And so although I brought this up, I don't necessarily agree with this theme, and that's not what I picked up from it. For me, I picked up more of the manipulation of Jennifer to Needy, because I feel like Jennifer's real only tactic that she knows in life of how to manipulate people is with her body. And so she feels like she's losing Needy. So the only way that she knows how to bring her back to her side is to try to manipulate her physically. And so that's why I kind of feel like that's why Jennifer did that, rather than she's actually in love with Jennifer. That she's in love with Needy. I don't think she's in love with Needy per se. I I think she loves her as a sister, as a best friend, and she doesn't know how to stop Needy from leaving her besides with her body. Another huge aspect that I love this movie and I love in movies is the gore factor. This movie is incredibly gory and I love it because it's so tasteful in its gore. It's not just throwing out gore willy-nilly. It's truly scary how Diablo Cody and Karen Kusama really use gore in this movie and the scare factor. And I think it is so smart that the way that they used it, it's not super, there's not a ton of gore, I would say, scenes in this movie. But again, there's like 5 maybe gore scenes in this movie. And so I truly loved the way they used the gore. And I believe, and we'll go over this in fun facts, they mostly used practical effects. And this is why I always say practical effects first. Practical effects first because practical effects is always going to hit in a way that is raunchy, it's gut-wrenching, it affects you in a way that is so visceral. And I loved that about this movie. I think it really coincided with the feminine rage and the gore, and it just came together and made this beautiful little baby of a movie. It's wonderful. So another aspect I wanted to talk about this movie is the stacked freaking cast in this movie, okay? Because we got, of course, Megan Fox, Amanda Seyfried, who has become very popular at this point, like in this point of time. You've got Adam Brody, Johnny Simmons, who's from Scott Pilgrim vs. the World. You have Chris Pratt, who's Roman. What the heck? And then you have Kyle Gallner. And I love Kyle. He's such a scream king because he's not always a leading role, but he's always in a scary movie. He's always in a horror movie. He's in Smile. He's in Smile 2. He's in this movie, Jennifer's Body. He's in so many different movies that are horrific. I love this man. And he's crazy on the eyes, I will say. And then you have J.K. Simmons, J.K. Simmons played the news director in Spider-Man. He's in a whole bunch of really big movies and shows. He's in Law and Order. He was in BoJack Horseman. So many movies that he's in.
Where are you looking to go, young lady?
East, towards Madison.
Up in my chariot.
So many hard-hitting actors and actresses that really just push this movie into such a great and wonderful territory of film, and I loved this stacked cast. I don't think it could have been cast any better because Megan Fox, really, you're talking about someone who is so completely objectified throughout their career. Megan Fox. You can't talk to a teenage boy in the early 2000s that didn't say Megan Fox was their celebrity crush, because boom. I just loved this. A lot of modern critics actually now see Jennifer's Body as a feminist horror film that was misunderstood initially when it came out. And this is because the marketing focused almost entirely on Megan Fox rather than the story's theme, which is interesting because I feel like that's an interesting way to sort of lure a different type of audience in and then to hit them with something that they don't expect. However, I do think that this was probably damaging to the movie at first. I think now it's such a classic in horror. It really truly defined this genre in a very different way during the early 2000s. And now, of course, we have Siena's Music Mayhem segment. Siena's Music Mayhem segment. So yes, the soundtrack of Jennifer's Body is actually doing a lot of storytelling in and of itself. It's a very rooted in the early 2000s indie rock, emo, pop punk, which mirrors the emotional chaos of the characters and the high school setting. So the music choices help define Jennifer's seductive danger and Needy's awkward outsider energy. I'm just going to hit on a few of the most important songs and why exactly they matter in this movie. So of course we have probably the most important song, Through the Trees by Low Shoulder. So this is a fictional band's hit song, and it's basically the musical catalyst for the entire plot. So the significance of this song is that the dreamy and indie sound mimics the kind of bands that blew up in the late 2000s. So its hypnotic vibe really reflects how the band seduces the town and Jennifer before betraying her. So this song becomes creepy on rewatch because it represents the moment Jennifer's fate is sealed. Creepy. And of course we have one of the most iconic bands in the late 2000s for emo, punk, pop, sort of rock, okay? We have New Perspective by Panic at the Disco. So this song plays during the end credits and also ties into Needy's transformation. So the significance of this song is that the actual title itself mirrors Needy's gaining a literal new perspective after surviving Jennifer and escaping the asylum. So the slightly theatrical emo sound fits the movie's blend of horror and dark comedy, and it leaves the audiences on a note that suggests Needy is no longer the timid girl we started with. This whole soundtrack really leans heavily into emo, indie rock, and alternative music that dominated teen culture in the late 2000s. So, and this is truly important because it grounds the story in a specific youth culture moment, and it mirrors the emotional intensity of teenage life. This also reinforced the film's blend of seduction, angst, and violence. So really, I just want to really point out that the soundtrack for this movie acts like a time capsule of 2009 alt-teen culture, and it helps explain why the film developed in such a strong cult following years later. A lot of viewers who grew up with that music now see the movie as sort of a perfect snapshot of that era's aesthetic and emotions, and I would truly, I feel that from this movie. I love that about this movie because I feel like this is incredibly relatable to myself, to a lot of the teenagers or, early preteens who grew up during that time. And I think this movie is so incredibly relatable to a lot of different people, women, because we all go through this really uncomfortable, awkward transitioning of who we are as a person and who we want to be as a person. And so I just love that dichotomy between Jennifer and Needy because it shows that Jennifer was shown a different way by society of how to use herself, and Needy was shown by society in a different way to use herself. Needy didn't rely on her looks, she relied on her smarts. Jennifer relied on her looks and using her body for a distinct and visceral sort of transformation, and I loved that. And of course, we have Siena's Fun Facts. They're fun and they're facts where you learn a little something. Siena's Fun Facts. Fun fact number 1. So, the pool fight scene was miserably cold for the actors. So the climactic pool fight between Jennifer and Needy was filmed at night, and the actors had to stay wet for long periods during multiple takes. Amanda Seyfried later said that the cast was freezing while filming the scene, explaining that actors in water scenes often remain wet for days while shooting.
When I read scripts now, I see how many scenes are
in the rain.
Where you're in the rain, underwater.
Fact number 2. So the pool location was actually an old detention facility. So the creepy abandoned pool where the final confrontation takes place wasn't just a set. It was filmed at a formal juvenile detention facility in Burnaby, British Columbia, which helped give the scene its grimy, unsettling atmosphere, and dare I say, it gave it just another layer of thematic symbolism, that juvenile detention facility, and the fact that high school can be a sort of juvenile detention. Fact number 3. The vomit scene used a hidden practical effects tube. Love that. The gross out scene where Jennifer vomits black bile used an old school practical effect. A tube hidden near Megan Fox's face pumped chocolate-like liquid to simulate the demonic puke. The filmmakers deliberately chose practical effects instead of relying on CGI. And that's how you do it, people. Fun fact Number 4, the film relied heavily on practical effects. Director Karen Kusama said the production intentionally started with physical effects and props before adding any digital work because they felt practical gore looked more convincing and was more fun for actors to interact with. And this is why we use practical effects, because this movie looked hyper realistic in the gore. It looked horrifying, and that's one of the reasons why it came out so well. In fact, number 5, the sacrifice scene was emotionally intense for Megan Fox. The ritual sacrifice sequence early in the film turned out to be more emotionally difficult to shoot. Fox later recalled that filming the scene surrounded by actors chanting during the ritual became overwhelming and made her cry on set because of how vulnerable it felt. And that is so understandable to me. I feel like that would be something very vulnerable to be feeling. So some takeaways from this is that the production really leaned heavily into real locations, practical gore effects, and uncomfortable night shoots, which helped give the movie its gritty indie horror feel despite being a studio film. I loved that. And of course, we now have Scarometer. That meters as you get scared. Scarometer. That meters as you get scared. Oh, for Scarometer, we have a 10 out of 10. The thematic pieces of this movie, the gore of this movie, the relatability of this movie, the cast, all of these different aspects of this movie made it the absolute stunner of a movie that it is today. And I think this has truly, it's such a cemented piece in horror history because it's so horrific and it's so eerily relatable that I don't think people truly, I think people truly have the ability to relate to this on so many different levels that it makes it such a wonderful movie for me, and I hope for you viewers at home as well. So let me know what you guys think of this movie. Let me know your thoughts. If you have anything else to say about this movie, please go sound off on my Instagram. And I hope you love this movie as much as I do. And if you don't, let me know why too. Maybe we can go over it a little bit later. So I love, like I've said before, I love having discussions with anybody and everybody about horror movies. So please sound off. And next time on Dead Air, we're jumping from high school horror to something a little more grotesque. We're diving into the world of The Substance, a film that cranks body horror up to 11 and asks the terrifying question, how far would you go to become the best version of yourself? Until then, remember folks, don't split up and don't go into the basement. Bye.